Hello, I'm Claudine James, and I'm a teacher. And today I am going to educate you about a celebration called Juneteenth. And as a teacher, my motto is smart people read. So what we're going to do is we are going to read about this celebration. And in the process of reading, I hope that many people that are watching will be enlightened or learn about a special celebration. So I'm going to do something that I do in my classroom, which is I call it teacher read, which basically means that I am going to not read it word for word, but I'm going to read it enough that you gain knowledge, because that's what reading is about. Reading is about learning and expanding your knowledge. So I have two books, one called Juneteenth by Julie Murray, and then I have another book called Celebrations in My World, Juneteenth. And both of these is what we would consider nonfiction. And why they consider nonfiction is because they tell a true story and they are based upon something that is real. In this book, it says, what is Juneteenth? Juneteenth is an American holiday that celebrates people's freedom from slavery in the United States. Slaves were people who had no freedom. They were made to work for no pay. And so, here's what happened. On June the 19th, which is why it's called Juneteenth, is celebrated on that day. Some states celebrate it on the third Saturday in June. On Juneteenth, Americans from all different backgrounds, remember their African American struggle for freedom. Families and friends get together to share cookouts. They listen to speeches and they learn about African American history. And so it's ironic that both of these books start out with the exact same question: what is Juneteenth? And in this book, it has sort of like a picture showing how Juneteenth is celebrated. With my teacher read, I'm going to skip a little bit, and I'm going to skip over. It says African people were taken away from their homes and families. They were kept like prisoners and sold to people living in the United States. There, they were made to work on farms called plantations or in homes. They spent long hours working in the field or doing cooking and cleaning in their owner's home. Many slaves raised families who also became slaves. They were born in America, but their ancestors were from Africa. Many Americans believe that slavery was wrong. Some American states, called free states, did not allow slavery. Some states did not allow slavery. America was split into these two groups. And I'll go back. I stop right there. American Civil War. Many Americans believe that slavery was wrong. Some American states, called free states, did not allow slavery. Some states did allow slavery. America was split into these two groups. The group against slavery was the Union. It was supported by 25 northern states. The group for slavery was the Confederacy. The Confederate Army was made up of 11 southern states. The two groups went to war in 1861. This war was called the American Civil War. The first Juneteenth. President Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation before the Civil War. This order freed slaves living in Confederate states. When the Union won the war, all Americans became free. When the war was over, there was no telephones or televisions to spread the news. African American slaves living in Texas were the last to find out about their freedom. On June the 18th, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger, pictured here, arrived in Galveston, Texas, to take control of the state and to enforce the emancipation of the slaves. It is said that on June 19th, he read an order that stated all slaves were free. This day, from then on, became known as Juneteenth. Many slaves, however, did not hear about their freedom until days later when plantation owners read the order to them. On Juneteenth, people celebrate with customs that get handed down year after year. People of all backgrounds celebrate the end of slavery in the United States. They honor the African American struggle for freedom. One custom is to dress in fancy clothing for Juneteenth events. Before Juneteenth, many states had laws about what slaves could and could not wear. Many were not allowed to wear fancy clothing. When they were free, they could wear what they wanted to wear. Juneteenth music. At Juneteenth celebrations, people enjoy listening to music. Blues, gospel, and jazz music are often performed at Juneteenth celebrations. These kinds of music are played because they honor African American musicians. Jazz music was first created over 100 years ago by African American musicians. Some of the rhythms and sounds used are a bit like African music. Music festivals all across the United States, such as Jazz Festival, are held to celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth food. Juneteenth happens in late spring when the weather is warm, like today. Many people celebrate by gathering outdoors for a picnic or barbecue cookout. Some of the first Juneteenth gatherings held almost 150 years ago were celebrated in this exact way. Picnics are often done potluck style, when everybody brings something and we all share. Often lamb, pork, or beef is barbecued. Some people hold fancy dinners and have parties and banquets. Guest speakers are invited to talk about African American history. Juneteenth rodeo. After Juneteenth, many free slaves became cowboys. Cowboys were paid to work on large farms called ranches. Part of their job was to move cattle while riding horseback. Rodeos are cowboy shows. Cowboys display their riding and roping skills. Rodeos are held to celebrate Juneteenth in many states. An annual Juneteenth Black Rodeo has been celebrated in a different U.S. city every year for over 16 years. Learning on Juneteenth. On Juneteenth, people take time to learn more about African American history and culture. Special guests are invited to speak at Juneteenth gatherings. People of all backgrounds come to listen to the speakers to learn more about African American culture. Juneteenth festivals show artwork and crafts by African Americans. Some Juneteenth festivals also have poetry readings. Some have booths where people can learn about issues such as health. People hold workshops that others can learn from. Juneteenth in Texas. Today, people of all backgrounds travel to Texas on Juneteenth to celebrate the freedom of African Americans. After the emancipation of slaves was announced, many free slaves bought land in Texas. In 1872, African Americans bought a 10-acre piece of land in Houston, Texas for $800. They bought the land so they could celebrate Juneteenth every year. In 1896, a group of free slaves bought 30 acres of land that is now called Booker T. Washington State Park. Juneteenth in other states. Juneteenth is celebrated throughout other states, too. Many communities, both large and small, take part in events that celebrate the freedom of all U.S. citizens. In Denver, Colorado, an annual Juneteenth celebration has been held for over 30 years. People watch a Juneteenth parade and other kinds of entertainment. They eat different foods and visit booths with crafts and information. In Long Beach, California, people go to Martin Luther King Jr. Park and take part in an outdoor festival. People bring blankets and picnic lunches and watch and listen to entertainers perform for Juneteenth. A public holiday. A public holiday is a special day that is celebrated by people within a state. Some people get the day off from school or even work. In the United States, each state celebrates this holiday in their own special way. In some states, such as Texas and Milwaukee, Juneteenth is a public holiday. Many states, such as California and Ohio, make Juneteenth a state holiday observance. This means that if it is celebrated, people can get time off from work to celebrate. Time off from work and school. Now, here's a quiz. Did you pay attention? Are you knowledgeable now about the celebration of Juneteenth? A couple of quick questions I want to ask you. What was the last United States state to learn that the slaves were to be free? If you answered Texas, you're correct. What 2/3 make up Juneteenth? What 2 words make up Juneteenth? June 19th. Which U.S. president wrote the Emancipation Proclamation. President Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation. Number 4, what was the general's name who set the last slaves free in Texas? General Granger was his name. And how do people celebrate Juneteenth? All kinds of ways. Parades, marches, speeches, learning about history, plays, outdoor games, family time, and most importantly, I'm sure all of those activities will include some type of food. Well, I don't know about you, but reading about Juneteenth puts me in the mood for a celebration. So, I'm ready, and I'm off to celebrate Juneteenth in my city. Thank you, and remember, smart people read.